Good afternoon and welcome to the EPALE Malta Community Conference side event. My name is Mandy Mifsud and I am the head of the Lifelong Learning Unit within the Ministry for Education in Malta. Today, my colleague Natasha Fabri, who has organized a very interesting panel discussion for you, will be holding this session where we have three very interesting panelists who will be focusing on three of the thematic focuses of EPALE. We are really happy to have you here with us in our MCDA hub and also to have some people online who are following us. We truly wish that you enjoy this session and that you participate by posting questions if you're online and also asking us here in the audience. So I truly hope that you enjoyed this session and I leave the floor to my colleague Natasha. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you so much Mandy. Welcome everyone, we're very happy to have you here physically in our Lifelong Learning Hub and all of you joining us on the online live stream. Our topic for today is investing in our future society and workforce, rethinking skills training in Malta. Before we get started, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Natasha Fabri. I'm responsible for the EPALE project on behalf of the Directorate for Research, Lifelong Learning, Employability, and within the Ministry of Education here in Malta. My job today will be to be the moderator of the discussion. Our national side event will be held in two main parts, a panel discussion with our experts and a Q&A section with our audience here and those following us online. We've just had a wonderful 3-day conference on EPALE covering all 4 thematic focuses for 2022. We've had some really informative, inspiring and dynamic discussions with a variety of speakers from all over the world. And we here at NSS Malta are so happy to be joining the other 16 national support service agencies in this great event. If you didn't catch the online sessions on the main EPALE event, please visit the EPALE website for recordings of the plenary sessions. And of course, there will be a lot of other things that will be published in the coming days. If you are involved in adult learning, but you are not a member of EPALE yet, please visit the EPALE website and join the 120,000 members that we have on the platform. And yes, good. So if you are following the live stream, please join us on this page. I will move slightly so if you want to get the QR code, you can follow us and you can continue connecting with us on a Padlet page that we have set up. So the website is tinyurl.com EPALE Malta EPALE in capitals with a capital M. On this page you will find a very simple run through, a very simple idea of what we're going to be discussing today. So we'll be discussing the young adults, skills revolution, and then creativity and culture, thematic focuses, and you can post your comments and questions in each box as well. Okay, so without further ado, I will now turn our attention to our guest speakers who will speak to us about the 3 thematic focuses: young adults, skills revolution, and creativity and culture, as I said earlier. And of course, we'll make a connection to the Maltese realities with these topics. I will give the floor to our speakers to introduce themselves and the work they do in their organizations.
My name is Alex. I'm Director of Research, Lifelong Learning and Employability. Mostly I will be speaking about culture and creativity because I think it's an area where we're also using culture and creativity as part of our lifelong learning program to reach out to communities.
I am Amanda Brinkat. I'm a Principal Executive working within the Training Services Unit at Jobs Plus. I have been working with Jobs Plus for 13 years, so I was working in different units and now I am responsible for the training design and quality assurance of within the training services unit. Basically, we are responsible for the designing of courses according to the labor market needs mostly, and also the monitoring of the training services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. I'm Matthew Caruana. I'm currently the CEO of JA Malta Foundation. We carry out different educational programs targeting young people from 7 years old up to 30 plus. We mainly focus on three main pillars, which are the work readiness, financial capability or financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. So we developed various programs adapted to the different age groups, but our main focus is that the experiences are hands-on learning by doing principle and experiential learning. So we kind of fall a bit outside the normal schooling system, and we also now also, and in line also with the topic of today, we're also getting involved in delivering training programs for financial literacy for adults, as we feel it's a very important skill, very important knowledge that even adults would need. So we're going a bit beyond our usual reach, specifically for, and even in line with the topic of today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. So we're going to kick off our discussion with the young adults thematic focus. Matthew, I will turn to you to set the scene for us on the young adults thematic focuses with the first question. So, what opportunities are available to young adults, specifically in your case, and adults in general, to upgrade and compete in a fast-changing workforce landscape? How can one prepare for future market needs?
So I think what we need to do to set a bit the scene is understand what we mean or what we really understand by lifelong learning and learning while you're an adult, not compulsory education. And important to point out or keep in mind that most of it, the vast majority, would be self-initiated. So it's something that you need to do, that you opt to do it. Some of it might be driven by employment, by your employer, or actually hard need that you need something for your work. But typically it could be, it's something you do it out of self-interest. So when you're looking at opportunities, you need to look as to what fits in your interest, what fits in your needs, as well as wants, because at this stage sometimes it's a matter of a want, a new skill, rather than you need or you're forced to do it. So in terms of opportunities, nowadays they're endless. I mean, with the internet, online search gives you thousands of results, videos, tutorials, free courses, paid courses online. Even physically, there are a lot of courses and training sessions that you can subscribe to, you can follow. So again, when it comes to opportunities, one needs to understand why they're doing it, so their personal interest, what they're trying to achieve out of it, and then explore the different options that they have to make it happen. So is it a course, is it a session, is it a video tutorial, is it a skill that requires a lot of time and exams maybe associated with it, or is it a skill you want to learn out of personal interest, or a bit of a video tutorial would be enough. So you need to assess which route you ought to take for your particular skill you're trying to get in terms of learning new skill for the workforce or for your personal interest. And then an important part is the commitment. So there are endless opportunities, as I said, but when adults need to learn something or want to learn something, the important thing is the commitment to do it. There are a lot of distractions, life throws you a lot of obstacles, things in life happen, work, you have busy seasons and busy periods at work, so it's a matter of also personally committing yourself to say, listen, I'm going to learn this skill and this is what I'm going for. So it also requires certain drive. In terms of preparing for future skills, we don't know what the future is going to throw at us. There are certain skills that now we see them as very important, might not be important. There are certain jobs that we want to recruit and we're looking to recruit in these particular jobs. They might not exist in 5-10 years' time, or replaced by AI, by robotics or whatnot. So we always need to look into the way we learn. So skills that you certainly need to have to prepare would be things that some people say are soft skills, but I call the different names: creativity, as we mentioned, critical thinking, analytical mindset, entrepreneurial mindset, because entrepreneurial mindset is not simply opening up a business, but you can be an employee and be very entrepreneurial, because entrepreneurship is improving one's position or the community's position. You find problems and finding solutions, how you can make things more efficient, how you can act more faster, better, and so on. So I think preparing yourself is this: keeping an open mind, keeping an analytical mind, because as I said, the opportunities are endless, but there's also a lot of not so good material out there either. So you need to be analytical. The first step is to analyze: is this course, is this material, is this video content good for me? Is it giving me good value, or is it some random person doing a video and might not be that reliable? So those are the skills we really need to work on, to be honest, as well. Apart from specific skill, which is, I don't know, a skill you need for work, hands-on. You need to prepare yourself as a mindset, that you want to learn more.
Would anyone like to comment on?
I was going to mention when I will intervene the soft skills that you mentioned, because recently, in recent years, I think around 2 years ago, Jobs Plus ran a survey with employers and asked them what skills are lacking in their employees. And instead of technical skills, they all mentioned soft skills like communication skills, customer care skills, interpersonal skills. And following that survey, then we designed short courses that are available for all, free for all who are interested, people who are interested. In these soft skills, work ethics, as I mentioned, communication skills. We had even English for business, because the English language sometimes it needs to be communicated differently than when you're speaking to a person. So since he mentioned it, I thought I would step in and mention it as well. We think even as Jobs Plus is the public employment service of Malta. So our main aim is to enhance accessibility to the labor market. We provide services for both employees and job seekers, and also to the employers. So that's why we try to communicate with stakeholders and employers. It is not just, that's what we found out, it is not just the technical skills, the specific skills that are needed for the job. Even soft skills, we found out that they are very important.
One of the things is like, what's one of the important things nowadays that we have to realize in the educational sector in general is that times have changed. So if you had to go back 30 years, you needed a physical library, you needed to go to the physical library to find physical books and find the information there. If the information was not there, you had to find some other way how to get that information. But nowadays we need to move from an information-based education to an education where you learn how to learn. And that is the most important thing. I mean, learning how to learn is not only because now there are more opportunities to gather information, and as Matthew was saying, like we really need to be analytical. Like, for example, this year we started media literacy in lifelong learning, because you need to learn, in a world of information, you need to learn which information is valid and which information is not. But it's not just that. It's also the fact that many students, even in mainstream schooling, one of their major problems to succeed is actually that they don't know how to learn, or they have never been taught how to learn. So that becomes a hurdle in itself. I mean, you can always learn a skill. but you need to know how to learn it. Like, and teaching how to learn actually can be a very important tool then to learn other things. So that is one point I wanted to make. Secondly, I mean, I know the word soft skills is quite like very much used, but I don't really like it because somehow it gives the importance, its importance is diminished. Well, in reality, it's the most important thing, because you can have the best technical skills, but if you don't know how to communicate them, if you don't know how to adapt to change, if you don't know how to adapt to the marketplace and to the workplace, you don't know how to work in a team. I mean, all these are very essential values. What we're trying to do from our end, I mean, we work a bit on a different platform, is to try and take these values to the community. It's like we are trying to insert them in different programs, so that maybe without even knowing that you're learning that skill, you learn that skill. And we're taking it as part of lifelong learning. We're taking it in communities for adults. And since our directorate also incorporates the area of early school leaving, we're also taking that into schools. For example, because we find that with children who are already at a very tender age, like 7 or 8 years old, and they are at the risk of being early school leavers, going into the school with them, actually put them in charge of a project, work with them towards the completion of that project, and the celebration of their success is a very important vehicle, is a very effective vehicle actually for them then to learn, you know, these skills. And we see that because kids who have participated this year, the next year they will be leading the new, you know, the new cohort who's taking over the project. And it's fascinating when you see how much, you know, they can be really good leaders.
The peer learning aspect.
Exactly.
There.
Yes.
Yes. This leads me to kind of a follow-up question then in this case. Of course, here we're focusing on adult learning, but we're stretching it by talking about young adults. I think the missing link here is talking about mainstream schooling today. Maybe I can ask all of you this, or perhaps I can start from Matthew again, since you work with the younger age group. What do you see mainstream schooling as needing to change in what it is doing currently?
Sure. It was mentioned before, so there's a bit of a change that we need to adapt, and unfortunately, due to different things, and it's not a matter of playing the blame game or whatever, the education system needs to adapt. It was mentioned before, the concept changed, the need changed, so I believe that the compulsory school needs to go a bit away from being content driven. It's not a matter of me and teachers giving definitions, explaining things. Those things can be found online. What you need to do is instruct the students of important concepts that there are, so that they can research about them, important facts that they can research about them, and teach them how to research about them, how to find information, how to analyze, how to be critical. So focus more on how to learn rather than the actual content. So it needs to shift a bit in that way. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is teachers and the educational system and the compulsory educational system has a very key role. At the very early stages, early days, early years of students, we need to really instill the love for learning rather than content and how I learn, which are important, but also the love of learning, the love of discovery, the love to really know something new. It's the excitement you see in the kids' face that it is something new. But if we constantly hammer them with, you need to learn for the exam, you need to learn to get a grade, you need to learn to get a job, it becomes a burden. Oh, I need to go through another exam, I need to learn this thing, oh, we're going into a new topic, more stuff to learn for exams, rather than we're going into a new topic. Really take them out of the classroom make them live. If it's history, take them to the museums to show, and even the way you teach it. You can introduce presentation skills, debating skills, analytical skills by teaching them history, geography, science, chemistry, no matter what the topic is. There's like entrepreneurship, there's a discussion whether it should be a module in itself, as a topic in itself, or whether actually it should be taught as part of the entrepreneurial skills, should be taught as part of any other topic. So there's this debate. And this is important. I think the love of learning is something, I mean, I see it from me personally. I was lucky to have a couple of teachers that really instilled the love of learning, and I'm still learning now, obviously learning new skills as I go along in life, but even going through courses, actually formal courses, and I keep learning. And I think this is critical, and this is why then we can't expect young adults to all of a sudden change their mindset and want to learn out of self-interest. If they've been hammered into them that they need to learn because of the exam, or they need to know this content exactly as we said it. So we spend a number of years in the education system, unfortunately, and I'm being critical, I know, maybe also to raise the debate as well. I'm not saying everyone falls into this, but we spent years in the educational system really destroying creativity. They need to follow a process. They need to answer in the particular way. They need to follow this. And then expect them that when they're young adults, all of a sudden they grow this love of learning, learn on their own, and be creative enough to find new skills. It doesn't work that way. So I think the preparation for lifelong learning, which is essential. As I said, jobs will disappear and new ones will come in. Skills that we are needing now will disappear and new ones will come in. So they need to keep up. People, society, adults, young adults, mature adults, call them, they need to be adaptable. So, but we need to instill this at the young age. So, although we're talking about adult learning, it all starts from the compulsory system. Again, even the name, compulsory system. If we keep putting these dimensions into kids and young people, that you have to do this, you have to do this. This is not a choice, you have to do this. Ultimately, they see it as, oh, finally, I'm out of school, I'm going to work. Early school leavers, part of it, not all of it. There are various issues, society issues, background issues, family issues. So they affect everything. I'm not saying what I'm going to say is the be-all and end-all, but some early school leavers is because it's finally I got out of that system. Purely that, no other issue. They just want to get out.
And some of those are actually high-achieving students who get bored at school.
Yes,
So,
yeah, exactly. As
in
well.
reality.
Apart from the problems I mentioned, there are also the high achievers that we ignore them sometimes, and they get bored and they need to leave, which unfortunately then suffer some consequences later on, or maybe because they leave, they don't have the effect and influence on others, which is good to have this cross pollination, let's call it like that, from students, high achievers that motivate others. But even that, in terms of we give them assessments, assignments, to work as a team. Let's work together with different backgrounds. Let's bring them together and work as a team. Because that's what they need to do later on in life. We can't expect them that they work all their school age working on their own in an exam and an assignment on their own, and all of a sudden in the workplace they need to be part of a team. I don't know how to do this. And we see it in our program, as was mentioned. As soon as we start some programs, we have a scholastic year. And from the beginning, in October, till May, the difference in the students is amazing. I mean, when we start, we give them, for example, to do some presentations. And if they could stand behind the door, whisper from outside the door, that's what they'll do. In May, they're on stage in front of a hall of 300 people presenting with visuals and everything, and confident on stage. And the opportunity is what we need to give them, rather than sit down, follow a book, and parrot everything back in the exam. It's let's work together, let's create an assignment, let's debate it, give them a topic and give them space to. I know some schools do it, some teachers do it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but the majority, I think, we're still lacking that.
Thank you. And does anyone else want to comment on
In fact, I would like to add something to that. For example, from this year, when it comes to adult learning courses, I mean, from 15 onwards, because that's our cohort starts from 15 year onwards, we are doing away with examinations, and we are introducing a continuous assessment. But part of that continuous assessment is not a technical assessment, but is personal growth. Because what Matthew was saying is very important. I mean, yes, it's good that you come here and you learn a new language and all these things, but what's also important for me is to see that during the course of the year, you have developed your listening skills, your speaking skills, because at the end of the day, that is what is important. You know, and I mentioned the language, but it could be something else. I mean, the confidence that you get also helps you to perform better. So that is very important. Another important thing is how employers perceive what they need for their workforce, to become part of the workforce. Because it's true, we have this kind of rat race for certificates. And it basically comes from our past, where the certificate was important for you to raise your social status. But we should learn from some industries that have recently, last 20 years, they recently came to Malta, where they are recruiting in a different way, where your qualification is not so much important, because you're going to get the training once you are part of the company. And that can change a bit this perception that you need the certificate. Yes. Because the employer, what the employer is looking for are your qualities. So if you show to the employer that you can learn, that you're serious on your work, that you can be flexible, that you can decide, that you can be responsible, you know, all these values which we are calling also soft skills, then you are recruited and you learn on the place of work, which is fabulous and which reduces a lot of this stress that you have to leave school with a certificate.
And in fact, just to point out, as we're not giving you time, it's this rat race. On the other hand, this rat race to get the certificate and get the grades and everything, sometimes even parents and the students sort of ignore extracurriculum activities because I don't have time, because I need to study for the exam. But on the other hand, and more employers are looking at those extracurriculum activities. Because if you were involved in a sports team, if you were involved in scouts, if you were involved in any other associations, or you did like the Young Enterprise program, the campaign program, they see that you took the initiative, they see that you were part of a team, you were part in a way that you had to take decisions, whether it's organizing events, whether it's fundraising, whether it's anything like that. The employers are seeing that what was mentioned, the proactivity, decision making, working in a team, the creativity are being shown more in the extracurricular than the certificate. The certificate is important, yes, I'm not saying ignore them completely, but a good balance and a good mix showing hands-on experience that you've worked and you worked on something tangible and delivered something tangible as part of a team, which is important.
Amanda, would you like to say anything else? No? Okay. So Amanda, I'm still going to turn to you now. We're going to focus now on the skills revolution topic, and I will ask Amanda first. So we're going to turn our conversation in a very, very easy way, because we've already started talking about skills, really. Reskilling, the topic of reskilling. Is it an option, or has it become a necessity at this point? How do we address skills gaps, mismatches, for example? And if you can, tell us something about micro-credentials.
Okay, so reskilling, it might be an option for a few individuals, but from what I will be explaining, we believe it has become a necessity. I think reskilling, it does not benefit only the individual, but also the employer. I'm going to speak mostly from an employment perspective now. This is because due to the constant changes in the labor market, as Matthew was saying, certain skills will not be present anymore in the coming years. you have even what we call them the obsolete skills. Due to technological advancement, certain skills and certain manual jobs will not be available anymore. So it is important that a person undergoes training, upskilling, reskilling, even due to the labor market changes, even because if we see recently the pandemic as well has left some repercussions, especially for the low-skilled workers as well. From an employment perspective, I think when a person continues to undergo training, enhances their skills, I think it makes the person better to adapt to change as well, as we were saying as well. And in the case of employer, can remain competitive, we think as well. From the perspective, also I was going to mention as well the basic skills that we were mentioning and the soft skills, but we already mentioned it, so I don't want to repeat. And with regards, I think when upskilling and reskilling can also limit skills gaps and skills mismatches, and that is when we are going to say then how to address them. I think there are various ways how to address skills mismatches and skills gaps, as we were saying, since due to the changes, demographic changes, even technological advancement, I don't think they will ever be addressed 100%. But if we had to target, I think we need to target not only the employees or the job seekers, but also the employers. You encourage employers to invest in their staff as well. How to encourage also people to train themselves also by enhancing active labor market programs. Increasing also apprenticeships, as Matthew was saying. I think the on the job, not just learning and training yourself to experience work placements or work on the job experience.
How important is that synergy between, let's say, Jobs Plus and the employers themselves?
I think it is important. As I was saying, the employer can remain competitive, and the individual also can. I think this also affects employee retention, for example, and even you reduce the turnout as well. What I was going to say, like Matthew was saying as well, we have, even though we are talking about young adults, I think we need to start from the beginning, going to the education. How the skills mismatches, you also address them by trying to reduce as much as possible early school leavers. And if we have early school leavers, how are we going to redirect them to training? So I think even it's just an idea maybe. What if employers would be cooperate also when we adapt the curricula of schools? How can they provide information and communicate with the employers so that we adapt the curricula at schools, not just teaching them subjects and that's it. So I think with regards to micro-credentials, in our case in Jobs Plus, we offer short courses, which I think are a little, it's like a short-term solution. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will become better, but we have statistics that following the successful completion of our courses, a lot of our clients, trainees, do find a job. Those job seekers do find a job within 6 months after successfully completing a short course. When I'm saying a short course, it's not necessarily short, as in we have the childcare courses, which are quite long, and we also offer the placement with a substantial amount of hours need to be spent in a childcare setting. And we also have courses in first aid, and I'm trying to think. Recently, we also saw what the labor market needs as well, and we also introduced courses in organic farming, for instance, and automobile engineering, and even mental health awareness, because, as we were saying, we increase these courses, not just a course that will take you to necessarily to a job, but also to retrain yourself, to upskill yourself, and hopefully give you more encouragement and boost confidence, and then you will find the job that you would like.
Absolutely. Who else would like to weigh in?
I agree. I mean, in terms of reskilling and learning a new skill, even as I said before, even if not for work, even simply learning skills gives you more confidence, motivation, and encourage you to again learn more. So that is certainly something that people should consider. I think recently I heard of a company that actually kind of forces part of the KPIs of employees is that they need to go through 50 hours of training, and this 50 hours of training could be anything. Even the example he said was even cooking pasta. Anything. The fact that you're learning, you're training your brain to keep engaged, to keep going, rather than getting stuck in the hands-on and doing the same thing over and over again, is beneficial also for the employer. So when it comes to reskilling, I would like to mention 2 points. One is the employer's role in it. So as I said, in the school we need to create a culture of learning, of love for learning, as well as in the employment. We need to create a learning culture. And by doing that, it involves giving employees time to learn, permission to learn, because sometimes I've heard of instances where kind of they're scared that people learn a new job because they will ask for a raise or they will move on to a new job. So, and creating the infrastructure and the culture around the office, that this is a learning culture. So we encourage debate, we encourage discussions, the time and permission to learn, and also encourage it from maybe some financial incentives or any other things. So that is something that the employer also needs to take care. Like I said, for the schools, also the employer have the same responsibility. When it comes to the individual, we need to also, maybe in Malta, move a bit away from the taboo of someone changed job or did a career change as if it was a failure. I think the fact that I started my career, for example, just to give an example, as a lawyer, and all of a sudden I started studying, I don't know, financial services or banking or engineering for that matter, and changing direction and moving to a new skill and doing a new career change. It is something that should be not seen as that person failed as a lawyer, so he's doing something else. It is something natural that people feel that that career is not giving them the satisfaction they need, something that maybe they were pushed when they were young to go in that field, and it gives them more satisfaction to learn a new skill and move to a new career. So I think we also as a culture need to move away from the fact that changing a job, or even the way we treat kids and our youth, is you need to choose wisely because this is the career now for your lifetime. Gone is the job for life and the career for life. We change, sometimes you're forced because the job is not there anymore, but sometimes it's also a free choice that I decided to move career and move to work in another industry. And that is something we need to encourage, even when it comes again to the entrepreneurial mindset. If I am willing to discuss with the employer things that need to be changed to be more effective, the employer needs to promote it, and if need be, skill me or help for me to skill myself so that my suggestion, I drive it to come into fruition. And also maybe, yes, I move into a self-employed position, do something and then move back. The fact that people move around, we need to stop labeling it as failure or he gave up or she gave up and she didn't do well so she moved there. No, it's a matter of we need to encourage it if need be, as long as people feel good and they're getting satisfied. Because ultimately it's not the pay, it's not the salary. I mean, you're spending 8-10 hours at work every day. You need to be happy and be satisfied in what you're doing. Now, be it because you're working in an area you like, or be it because you're doing impact in society and therefore you like that fact. It's up to you. As long as people are driven, motivated, and happy doing that, they will work more because they don't feel like they're working, they're doing something that they like. And that is what we need to keep promoting, even with adult learning and courses and content online, because they might get exposed to something new. They might have heard a topic at work and they say, listen, I see that's a field I can specialize in, so they dive in that skill. And this is how we need, again, the love of learning, that when they hear a new topic, rather than the fear, something else I need to cover at work, something else that comes will shift my paradigm, it's more, let me look into it, let me see if this is something of interest to me, let me shift to it. And this is what we need to keep promoting.
I think sometimes we attach our identity to actually what we do, right? Our jobs are such a massive part of, even when you introduce yourself, you say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a banker, I'm a teacher. So I think we also have to think about, do I only have to fit that label? What do you think, Alex?
First of all, I mean, yes, unfortunately, language forces us sometimes to do things which do not actually reflect reality. You know, language is an arbitrary thing, quite. So, yeah, if I define myself with just what I do, then there's a lot of myself I'm not actually saying about. I think I fully subscribe to the idea that it should be encouraged that a person changes jobs every now and then. First of all, because with time, you get into a mindset, and you are no longer, you know, like as sharp as you were, as adventurous as you were, as pro change as you were, and you start to, you get into these rituals, exactly, which actually cause memory loss. So you just do things just because you do them. So change actually helps you also to reinvigorate yourself. You know, so that is something I fully subscribe to. And then there's also, it is reskilling and upskilling, learning about mental well-being. Because when you learn more about mental well-being, you're learning more about yourself. And you are giving yourself a skill to be able to change the way you think, to the way you find balance in your life. So it's a very important aspect of reskilling. But the point I wanted to make was that given the particular nature of the Maltese labor market, so we live in a country where we have the least the lowest birth rate in the European Union. Just last year, we had an increase of in secondary schools of 252% of non-Maltese students, and the Maltese students were minus 12%. So actually, so we live in a country where actually we are creating more jobs than there are actually people to work in those jobs. So part of the reskilling is those non-Maltese workers that are being imported, in order to actually, they find their place on this island. So some of them, they need to learn English. Some of them, they need to learn Maltese, or they want to learn Maltese in order to fit better, integrate better in the society they are living in. But we should also focus on the Maltese labor force to be equipped with skills how to integrate with non-Maltese workers. You know, like to create an environment which is more open to the multicultural diversity that we now have in workplaces. So reskilling is also that. So that you what you have to do is basically you have to adapt to the situation that you are living in. And this isn't something that's going to stop in 10 years' time. Actually, in 10 years' time, it might be bigger because we're having less children, so we would need to import more workforce. So it is something which we should give a lot of importance. But again, as I think really is emerging in our discussion, is what are the most important things to learn? We're talking about multiculturalism, about mental health, mental well-being, things which they are not like the first thing that comes to mind. And there are also things which many times we neglect and we don't learn about. Like Matthew mentioned before, financial literacy. Financial literacy isn't for people who for the poor. It's actually for everyone, because you can have a very good salary and you squander it without even knowing. So, or you're not thinking of the future, for example, not thinking of your pension. So these are things that actually we really need to promote more, because yes, when we think of upskilling, reskilling, many people actually go on the technical aspects. But in reality, reskilling is reinventing yourself, and
even the mentality of certain people as well.
Yes, exactly.
So mental health. Why do I need to train myself in mental health? I don't have problems. Or even when Matthew mentioned the change in jobs. So I know of a person who changed his profession from a lawyer to a teacher. Sometimes they tell you, but why did he change it? The pay is less. It's the mentality, I think, as well, of people, how they think.
Because which might that status to financial gain,
yes,
right?
yes. It's like that's the most important for them.
The problem is that, I mean, the rat race isn't just for the certificates.
Yes.
I mean, the rat race is also working. I mean, when you say that people are working for 10 hours a day or 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. I mean, this means that in your life there isn't a good balance, even from an employer's point of view. I mean, if you are an employer who really wants to look ahead and invest in what you're doing, then you need healthy employees. So they need their time to rest, adequate time to rest, so that when they come on the job, they can actually do their job in a very serene way. Exactly. Now, if you burn out your employees, then I mean even job changing is something which employers, if they want really to look ahead, they should encourage. Because when you change employees, it means that you're bringing in fresh ideas, you're bringing in fresh blood. You get new ideas from the new people you're getting, maybe change work practices. I mean, the problem, and I think in Malta, I don't know if you find it the same way, but from my experience, that's something I noticed. Many employers have this idea that, what worked for the past 30 years will continue working for the next 30 years. That everything has to remain the same. Which is like you're living in a bubble. So change, and I mean, change should be embraced.
And even employers need to understand this as well. So the people change jobs, so they need to also create a culture that it's okay to move from one department to the other internally, rather than losing an employee because you were employed with this job. And encourage that if you see workers and employees take the proactive approach and the initiative and ask for a change in job, or you encourage learning and they want to change job, create mobility within the company. You keep everyone fresh, keep everyone sort of learning new skills. If an employee experiences 2-3 departments or 3 areas, they can see the bigger picture, so they can help. So this reskilling works with motivation, works with keeping people engaged at work rather than monotonous and doing the same thing. So these are all opportunities rather than challenges I think more and more people are realizing these are all opportunities to remain engaged, helps with the well-being of people. So really, I think now it's not a matter of we need to tell people reskilling is good or upskilling is good. I think it's creating the culture that it's okay to do it, time for you to do it, and encourage it in a particular way that people are happy to learn new stuff and to do something different.
So there has to be a process of reframing then, changing careers or changing what you do into something that is beneficial for you as a whole person.
Yes, I agree with
Yes,
that. Yes.
absolutely. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to our third and last thematic focus, which is creativity and culture. I will ask Alex to take the lead on this one. So the new European Bauhaus can be used as a compass to develop places, practices, and experiences that are enriching, sustainable, and inclusive. This contributes to shaping more resilient communities. My question to you is, how can adult learning play a strategic role in imagining and building a future that is sustainable and inclusive?
So let's start from the first premise. The first premise is that the beautiful thing about adult learning is that it is not class-bound. It shouldn't be class-bound. It should be community-bound. So adult learning stems from the needs of a community. So it is the community itself that flags its needs. The second premise. Second premise is that education and art can be one thing. Because art, what is art? I mean, if we had, okay, I know this is a 2,500-year old question. What is art? But in a nutshell, art is human expression. Human expression that takes a certain form, no? Now, human expression is a learning expression. Like here we are talking, no? And we are learning from each other. We could give this discussion of ours a different form, and we would still be learning from each other. So, for example, Matthew gave us a bit of a narrative, no? When he said, I was a lawyer, and then I went to be a banker. Like, that is part of a narrative. So imagine a community creating a narrative, and within that narrative, no, we are actually learning how to come together. I mean, we use this, for example, in SWE as part of our active citizenship education, when we had migrants within the community talking with the rest of the community, and they were telling stories, storytelling. So art can be also that, can be a learning experience. It can be also therapeutic. I mean, we use art therapy, for example, for mental well-being. Art can be also on the workplace. Creativity is not the nice thing about creativity is that it is boundless, that the opportunities are boundless. Then there is the arts sector, which is directly related to the arts. Now this is a sector which has a lot of opportunities to offer. And I think that, for example, in Malta, we are still not exploiting it enough. First of all, jobs in the creative industry are highly paid. They are, because, you know, at the end of the day, everyone wants a decent salary to live with, but they are highly paid, they are very green and sustainable. And the thing with creative industries is that they have an impact on the neighborhood. I mean, one of the leading examples which for me is very interesting, is the Guggenheim in Bilbao in Spain, and the positive impact that created on the environment of the city. Now, in Malta we have the good fortune of having a very very unique and priceless heritage, which can actually be a platform to create sustainable, green, high-end jobs. Of course, we have to take care of that environment, because if the heritage that we have undergoes destruction, ruin, whatever you might call it, I mean, that is a treasure lying there that if you don't take care of it, I mean, it will be squandered like every other treasure. The thing is, we are still not tapping enough into that sector. And that could be actually one of the most long-lasting industries in the Maltese Islands. Why? Because we often think that the creative industries are about the artist painting a painting, or the musician playing an instrument, or, but it's not like that at all. I mean, for example, we have some interesting, and some of the main players actually in game development, not gaming, game development, that actually operate from Malta. Now, to develop a game, you need designers, you need composers, you need, there's a whole thing to create a game. I mean, that is one aspect of the create, but there are so many different possibilities. There's so much creativity that can be generated that we should tap into that. For example, in MCAS, to tap into that sector. But more needs to be done, definitely more needs to be done. And then again, once that is the emphasis on employment, while we're emphasizing it, we should also use creativity, culture, to, first of all, to boost our communities, to bring communities together. Because one of the problems that we are, and here, if we have to go back to mental wellness, this has an impact on our mental well-being, is that people are increasingly isolated. They feel lonely. I mean, loneliness is one of the biggest problems of mental well-being right now. So we need to recreate community, because communities were already there, but we need to recreate them. We need to redefine them. And creativity is one very good way to bring communities together, especially after post-pandemic and the, like many employees on remote working, for example. The remote working is comfortable in a certain sense, but it's also isolating, and it actually poses a lot of challenges on teamwork at work. Because rather than working as a team, people feel more like individuals placed here and there that come together just on the task. They're not part and parcel of a whole team. So yes, so creativity definitely. I feel it's not just a very important employment opportunity and industrial development, but it's also very important to give a new lease of life to our communities.
Martin, perhaps would you like to?
Yes, I agree. I mean, creativity and culture for me are very, very important. Before we mentioned the creativity, the idea of being creative, and it's not a matter of being creative for the sake of painting a painting, or creative because you're a dancer or you're an artistic person, you work in the creative industry. You need to be creative in all fields of work to find solutions, to find ways of improving. Is you need to be creative. You think the cliche, thinking outside the box, so that you can find solutions. So that is very, very important, that creativity is not something that is sort of limited for the domain of who's in the performing arts or anything of that sort. When it comes to culture, as it was mentioned, culture creates a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of heritage and responsibility to others, to the surrounding building. Because if we lose that, and we go deeper into the individualistic, in the what matters to me and my pocket is the be-all and end-all, and I don't see the bigger picture of how this influences the community, how it affects the culture around us, be it a cultural building, be it a cultural tradition, be it, again, what makes you you and what makes me me is culture. So this appreciation and this appreciation of what's around us, of Malta, and not really go down this rabbit hole of really destroying things and really seeing my personal interest only. It all stems from culture. And having that sense that this building is nice, I need to research about it, I need to know why, what it was built for, and this creates curiosity. Culture and creativity are also a matter of curiosity, which I think is also an important fact. When it comes to the creative industry, as it was mentioned before, yes, I think I agree with you. Unfortunately, we see the creative industries as a hobby. If we are engaging an artist, we feel like they're robbing us because they expect to be paid for it. It's like the amount of people, like it feels like they can do it for free is beyond me. But even that, we can still see it as a hobby. And maybe because also the parents' generation, because kind of what opportunities do you have with that? It's all a matter of what opportunities and where you'll end up working at. But now we don't realize that, as it was mentioned, that the creative industry can be employed everywhere. I mean, and if you combine creativity, culture, curiosity, and the creative industries, this inspiration is what ultimately makes us humans, what makes us different from any other animal. Moving away from this race for survival and survival of the fittest, but actually enjoying culture and the standard of living and how we live is what makes us humans. And ultimately, if we want to talk about business, is where does business earn money from? From people. So all those factors make you develop better products, better services, customer service, designing a way that other people will appreciate this thing. Be it because it's green, because it's sustainable, because it's efficient, because of the ergonomic design. Whatever it is, you're designing stuff, your products and services for humans. And humans are humans because of that. Culture, history, traditions, their creative mindset, and because we built these structures, we built homes, we built statues, we built paintings, whatever, from olden times. One of the oldest profession was the artist. It's because that's what makes us humans. And ultimately, humans are there to work for other humans, be it to sell stuff, be it to produce stuff, be it to share, and that is creativity, culture is the be-all and end-all for that.
Excellent. Certainly a lot of food for thought. I think you will agree with me. And now we pass to the second section of our session today, which is the Q&A. So I would like to remind everyone following us online that you can ask questions and put in your comments through our Padlet page, which is tinyurl.com EPALE in capitals, Malta with a capital M. And in the meantime, while you are putting in your questions on the Padlet page, I will be taking some questions from the audience. Yes? Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So I have a question related to what we call soft skills, what we call values, call it what you want. We know what we're talking about, attitudes and qualities, personal qualities. when I started my career around 25 years ago, we had these discussions. It was always the same. It's not technical. We need soft skills. We need the right attitude. Why are we still discussing it? And why? What do you think? Why hasn't anything been done yet? So I'm putting this. Don't know whether it's a difficult or an easy question for you, but I just want to hear some thoughts, mainly, because I don't think there is any statistics, hard statistics about it yet. Thank you.
If I had to attempt an answer, and I'm not coming from the academic field, so it's more of an external view, but someone with an opinion. I think change takes time, and change takes time because of the different mindsets that we need to play, and there are various factors in it. So when the academic system tries to instill any changes, fear of change instills a way of putting things to a halt. And I'm not blaming the authorities. I'm not blaming specifically teachers. I'm not blaming anyone in particular. I think it's a collective way of doing things, even parents, because when students start to implement certain differences, parents come up to teachers and tell them, but this is not for the exam, why are we wasting time on this? So it's parents, it's teachers, it's the academic system, it's the MedSec curriculum, it's this vastness of curriculum that doesn't allow teachers to be creative because they have to do the curriculum. They cannot afford that. People don't know the exam because ultimately that's how they are measured. So it requires this collective effort that different stakeholders come together, and that obviously creates barriers. There are personal agendas in the way as well, so it will take time, and it's another generation that probably needs to pass, that the parents are more aware of this. I mean, seeing our organization, the way we work, we try to tap into the academic system. The barriers are endless. Time, we don't have time, we don't have this, we don't have that. And it's always, in my opinion, sometimes excuses, because we don't want change. And unfortunately, yes, it's been ages that we've been discussing this. I don't have a solution, but I think it's a matter of different stakeholders coming together, facing reality that this is not on. This is not working. So it's useless saying, because this is how we do it, and this is because how it's done, and other people went through it, and look how successful they are. So it works. Pointing out the one-off, I mean, there are obviously a lot of successful people, it's not a one-off, but we can't, because of the people who are successful, that went through the academic system and are successful, prove a point that it's one size fits all. There are people who are left behind. There are people who are illiterate at my age, and we can't keep saying it works. It doesn't work. And this one size fits all doesn't work either. So I think it's a way that I don't want to be fatalistic at other people discussing Malta and abroad, that it's kind of the end of education because the way it's going to change drastically and whatever. I don't want to be that kind of person, but it needs drastic changes, and drastic changes come with all stakeholders coming together, admitting that this doesn't work and changing it. And the last thing I want to point out is we need to stop seeing teachers as not any other job. I think teachers are very critical in a society. They have massive, massive impact on our society, and we need to treat them with that respect. And before we have proper conditions, proper working conditions, proper respect to them, wages as well if need be, and attract more teachers and lecturers and educational staff because they want to do it, because it's what they love doing and it's a vocation, rather than attracting people who are doing it out of convenience, because it means that I have my afternoons, I can pick up my children. It means that thanks to me being in that school, my children get into that school, and it needs to stop being that. It needs to be a vocation. And how do we get the vocation back? Is by treating it as a vocation, by treating it with respect, and therefore changes will start happening. And when there are teachers who are willing to instill change, we don't put all the brakes and ifs and buts and stop them. but encourage it more and showcase success stories. I think that is critical.
Let me take a bit of a slightly, let me put first premise. I agree with what you said, so that's, but let me put a bit of a different perspective. But the question you put is, it hasn't been answered since the time when the Greeks were trying to figure out whether Plato was right and therefore discard Homer as a pedagogic source, or else keep Homer and discard Plato. So when we're discussing what should be taught at schools, how should teaching be, I don't think that we're ever going to come up with one point of view. And I also think that in this system of ours, with all the deficiencies that it has, there are actually teachers who are teaching thinking, who are being creative, who manage to loosen themselves from the constraints of the system because they are entrepreneurial. That is one of the first things. And being entrepreneurial is also part of when you see what you do as a vocation and not as a job. So I think that in reality, what we're doing here, we are trying to promote, as everyone does in a democracy, a worldview. And we're saying, listen, this worldview, because the three of us were pretty much in agreement about almost everything we said, we say this worldview works better than certain other worldviews, and we're trying to sell it out because that's at the end of democracy. That in democracy, that's what we all do. But definitely, if we have to go out there and see reality as it is, reality can be very complex and contradictory. And there can be other models that also work as well. I'm not saying, none of us is saying that all the other models don't work, but we are saying that the model that we see best is the model that is working. However, there will never be one model, and there won't be all the other bits and pieces, all the other contradictory and complex elements that will not be there. Because at the end of the day, I mean, there are employers out there, for example, who their major concern is productivity. I mean, they have numbers, they want to produce them, and they want their workers to produce them. And that's what they see. Then there are others for whom not being creative means dying. Then there are others who want to expand, but they don't have enough workers, or there aren't skilled workers or skilled workers don't want to work in that kind of job. So you know, there are many different realities. Is school addressing that? I don't think school will ever be able to address all these needs, or there will be ever a perfect educational system that works. I think the important thing is in an educational system is that we can have this debate, and that having this debate can lead to some internal internal sources within the system to say, listen, I want to do something, because at the end of the day, you can have the best system ever, but every system works with people. And unless the people want to make it work, it's not going to work. So here I come full circle with Matthew that in the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to speak less about teachers and more about educators. About the idea that especially primary educators, primary school educators, that I'm trusting you with my kid in order to form the kid. And that is a very big responsibility. And not everyone is able to take this responsibility. So yes, I fully agree that we need to stress that more. But that also comes with parent respect for the educator, for example. Because, you know, education is quite a strange subject. Because if I have to speak medically, no, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, so whatever the doctor says goes. And we are not going to tell a surgeon what to do, because, rightly so, the surgeon is the expert. But we have, or at least we assume so, but we have this idea that everyone is an expert in education. That education is a profession where everyone can have an opinion about it. And that undermines a lot the professionality of teachers. Because yes, I mean, true, you can be a parent, but being a parent doesn't necessarily make you a good educator. You know, I mean, everybody can be a parent. It's quite an easy task to have a child. Doesn't entail, but they don't come with manuals, no? But an educator is a learned professional and should be treated as a professional, and their word should be respected as the professionals that they are. Like we respect doctors or lawyers for their professionality. I don't want to take more of your time.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Absolutely. Anyone else? No, I think we can take another question perhaps. Yes, Ben.
Hello. My question is also about what we were referring to as soft skills. And I'm quite interested in the pedagogy or the andragogy of teaching soft skills. I know that Ms. Brinkat mentioned very early on in the discussion that Jobs Plus had launched a course specifically on soft skills. I just wanted to get the opinion of the panel as to the effectiveness of either teaching a course specifically on soft skills or inserting learning outcomes into other traditional courses. And what do you think is more effective, and does that change with the demographic? So when you're teaching children, is it one thing? When you're teaching adults, can it be something else? Does everything work at all stages? No. That's it.
The question, please, can you repeat?
Can you summarize a little bit for Amanda?
Do you think that soft skills should be taught as a standalone course, or should it be inserted, should communication, for example, be inserted into teaching English or teaching maths, or whatever the case may be?
So should it be a separate thing, or should it be amalgamated and merged into traditional subjects?
In the case of Jobs Plus, it is a separate thing, obviously, because we are not an educational institution, kind of, so we just saw what the employers need. And since we are, from an employment perspective, since we strive to meet the labor market needs even of the employers and of the employees, we provided those short courses. But I think, yes, it should be part of the educational system, I think. I mean, if they are learned from the beginning, if we instill them in our children, even when Ms. Mendy Mifsud was saying, why are we still discussing this? I think that is why, because as Matthew said, change takes time. And I think to change the mentality, you need to start from the beginning. We're not going to change the mentality of the parents. We can but we can change the way the kids think and what they think is best. So, yes, I think it should be something incorporated in other courses, in all courses. I think even if you study a degree at university, why not? Why don't they put some units or short courses that deal with these basic skills?
Absolutely. Does anyone else want to
I
weigh
think to see whether it's an individual topic or a transversal skill that is approached along other topics. It's similar to how I mentioned sort of with entrepreneurship. So there are certain techniques, certain principles that should be taught as a module in itself, or a session or a training session. So let's take presentation skills. So you have certain techniques of how to present, how to project your voice, the breathing exercises, the body language, the mannerism. That should be taught as a session on a standalone, because you need to part with a lot of concepts that the student or adult learner needs to take on. But then there's an element of practice, there's an element of hands-on experience, which can be in other topics. So let's say if we're teaching history, we can ask, rather than the teacher talks and students listen, we can turn that around and say, listen, next week we're going to handle this particular topic. The students go home, research, and they can take it in turns. That this topic was handled by me. So I can present, so I researched, so I learned how to research and be analytical. I presented it. The other students practice active listening, because they need to listen what I'm saying, maybe contradict me and debate because they saw something. So these are all skills that I'm mentioning that can be taught. I gave history as an example, but it could be anything. So there's always this debate of whether something is transversal or a topic. And there's this debate again with entrepreneurship. But I argue, for example, maths. Maths is transversal. In anything you do, there's maths, there's logic behind it. Does that mean we stop teaching maths because you can? No. You have concepts that are taught as part of a standalone course, as a session, be it a whole scholastic year or one session. I'm not going into that matter. But then there are other things that you can teach or make students practice, giving them opportunities to practice through other things. Entrepreneurship, if you're teaching marketing, if you're teaching business studies, if you're teaching engineering, they can come up with ideas and then approach it from an entrepreneurial point of view of how can it be done better, how can it be sold, how it can be communicated differently. So a mixture, to answer your question in short, a mixture of both is needed for techniques and concepts, but then there's the practice part and the actual doing things.
Okay, good. So I'm going to have to wind up the conversation because we're approaching the end of this session for today. So I would like to ask our panelists to tell us something just to finish off, about a minute or so. What is the main takeaway that you take from this discussion today, or what do you think should be the biggest focus in the thematic focus that we talked about, that we covered today? So I think maybe from Alex.
Well, certainly I think that the three of us agree that the soft skills are actually the hard platform that we need to work on. So in order to, if we want to look at the future, and that definitely means that these skills, these values, should be part and parcel of whatever we are doing constantly. We need to refer to them, which I find that the word that really encompasses these values is that you create an empowered individual.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
As Alex was saying, I think we came from to discuss different thematic focuses, but we still agreed on the same subject. We still agreed on how to go about it. So I think, imagine if we had to gather ideas from different persons, different sectors. I think it would have benefit, I think. So.
Thank you. Matthew?
I think I'll end with what I started, sort of the love of learning. I think that is critical. I think we need to make sure that we rekindle that and sort of keep the spark on, because ultimately for adults to learn things, it's harder because the mindset is already wired up. So it's harder. It needs time. It needs effort. So I think it all comes on whether I love to learn and this love of learning. So I think, for example, something like systems of knowledge, which everyone or not everyone, majority talks against because it's wasting time and why are we doing this? Ultimately, it's what gives students the opportunity to really experience a wide range and not to really get stuck in a thematic part. And I think it is that what we need to keep promoting, be it a parent, be it a student, be it an NGO, be it an employer, a teacher, an academic person. Let's keep pushing this idea that learning gives you confidence, learning gives you new horizons, new ideas, new opportunities, and it's a good thing and not an exam that's yet another exam that you need to do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, the three of you. I think they deserve a hand for this discussion. Thank you so much. We're very grateful for all of you to have come here and, of course, shared your ideas. And this brings our session to a close today. Thank you so much for the audience who are live with us, and also for all of you who have been following us on the live stream. I would like to encourage all of you here and online to continue the conversation on EPALE, to visit EPALE, to become part of this massive community and contribute, but also take away a lot of lessons from other people doing the same jobs, the same professions, with the same passion as all of us. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.